Mark Thompson on the line with us, the host of the Make It Plain show on Sirius XM Progress. Hey, Mark. Mark?
How are you, Tom?
I am great. Welcome back. I understand you're down at the Democracy Spring / Democracy Awakening event at the Capitol building?
Yeah, well, it's pretty much wrapped up. There were arrests earlier. Dick Gregory and Reverend Barber joined me. We were all there. And it was a pretty good crowd. Several thousand people came out, and this kind of capped off a whole week of activity that started with Democracy Spring and ended with Democracy Awakening this today and this weekend. And, of course, as you well know, the demands are for big money out of politics, the restoration of the Voting Rights Act, and an ending to what Dr. King called the interposition and nullification that Congress is using against President Obama's Supreme Court nominee. I think we'd all wish that nominee was a bit more progressive, but at the very least, they should respect the president's nominee and live up to their constitutional duty.
Well, these guys, the Republicans in Congress, from day one, I mean, you go back to the caucus room conspiracy or the meeting a month later at the Koch brothers' mansion where they had all the billionaires together, and John Cornyn and Jim DeMint had a debate in front of the billionaires about whether they should completely obstruct everything, even the things they agree with, or whether they should work with Obama, and they concluded that they should obstruct everything. They've been trying to delegitimize our first African-American president literally from day one, and they're not going to stop. And I mean, this is a horrible, horrible thing.
It is. It most certainly is. And the fact of the matter is, you know, it goes hand in hand with the issues we're concerned about. The Supreme Court is responsible for some of the biggest afflictions to our democracy today. Citizens United and the striking down of Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act, Tom. Mm-hmm. So really, you know, you and I have talked a lot about this, about how important November is.
Yep.
We are probably electing Supreme Court justices more than a president. If it's Bernie or Hillary, at the most we're looking at 4 or 8 years. But one of them will appoint a Supreme Court justice that we approve of that will serve a generation.
Yep.
And so, you know, I think that's the argument. You know, you and I have called for unity. You know, we'll talk unity as it gets closer to the convention even more. But I think people need to start thinking about, probably for the first time in history, we pull that lever this November. We're voting or visualizing more than just a presidential face. We're visualizing personalities on that Supreme Court.
And not just the Supreme Court, the head of the FCC, the head of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the head of the Federal Election Commission, the head of the EPA, the head of the Interior Department that determines whether or not public lands get sold off. I mean, all of these things are in the purview of the executive branch. It's amazing. Mark, I have a conspiracy theory I wanted to run by you. I'm sitting here in the studio and we've got 3 TV monitors. One's on free speech, which we're on right now. One's on CNN and one's on MSNBC. And on CNN, the Chyron just a minute ago was "Man Swims from Sinking Car," and it was a story about a car that fell into a river. And on MSNBC, it's, of course, they're talking about the Republican Party, which is pretty much all they ever talk about on MSNBC anymore. Neither of them have mentioned the fact that, a couple thousand people were at the Capitol building today. People have gotten arrested every single day for a week and a half. This is a major event. If this was the Tea Party, they would be all over it. If this was Cruz supporters or Trump supporters, they'd be all over it. I believe personally that the reason the media is not that has completely, whited this thing out. There's no coverage of it whatsoever. That the reason why, in my opinion, is because $5 billion is going to be spent in this election cycle, and most of that, $4 billion of that, is going to end up in the hands of the TV networks and the local stations that many of them own or contract with. And so why would they want to cut off, a $4 billion every 4 year, $2 billion every 2 year flow of cash? What do you think?
I agree. I don't think that's much of a conspiracy theory. I think that's just hard logic, Tom. That's what their interest is money, and I don't think it takes a student of conspiracy theories or economics just to look at the simplest explanation. For example, no candidate is able to call in on the phone or have his rallies broken into for live coverage on every network but Donald Trump. He is the thing that makes people rubberneck. He's a train wreck, an accident. So they make money off of advertising dollars because of him.
Yeah.
They have elevated him and kept him up in the polls. And so you're absolutely right. Their bottom line is money. It is ratings. It is the ongoing reality show. And it is unfortunate that movements like this, not only that, we were democracy, but we walked past the Supreme Court where they're hearing the oral arguments today in defense of Obama's executive order on behalf of immigration.
Right.
You had the Dreamers out there in full force. There were a couple thousand of them, so there were a total of probably 5,000 people between the Capitol and the Supreme Court.
And no media coverage of that either.
No media coverage whatsoever. Just you and me talking about it. That's it.
That's amazing.
And I'm glad we are talking about it, but there has to be a way for there to be much more mainstream coverage.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're covering it now. We've covered it every day last week, and we had a number of guests on about it, but mostly, just talk about it every day. It's so cool that you're down there. Did you get arrested, Mark?
No, not today. I didn't get arrested today. I couldn't. I got to head back to New York. But there were a few hundred arrests, and Reverend Barber, I believe he was arrested.
Yeah, that's great.
No, it was a really great event, and a really historic event, and the whole week has been. I will say this time though, we've got to sustain these types of movements. If Occupy, I was in the room last year, Left Forum, when Podemos came and chastised all of us at keeping the Occupy movement going and translating it into electoral politics. Occupy didn't want to do that. Imagine if we had done that. We wouldn't be in the fix we're in now. Yeah. We would have had the candidate we wanted, probably Elizabeth Warren, and then she would have been the front runner.
Yeah,
so this is a lesson to all of us to keep this movement sustained.
Yeah, I think too many local Occupy groups got co-opted by the RCP, but that's a whole nother discussion. And I look forward to being on your show tonight with Joanne Reed. Mark Thompson, thank you, Mark.
Yes, sir. Take care, man. Thank you.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.